rich that The View is saying she got the job based on looks when DEI is all about based on looks?
For weeks, The View treated Karoline Leavitt's $800 million lawsuit as nothing more than a punchline. The hosts laughed, mocked, and shrugged it off, dismissing it as a political stunt unworthy of serious attention. But now, they're singing a very different tune, reportedly urging her to drop the case altogether. So what changed so fast? And what's next for ABC and the women of The View? Initially, the show's response was steeped in smug indifference. They rolled their eyes and carried on as if Leavitt's lawsuit was a temporary blip. Joy Behar, never one to hold back, sarcastically dismissed it as just another conservative crying victim. Whoopi Goldberg, a veteran of public controversies, brushed it aside with a nonchalant "Please, we've been through worse. No one will remember this in a week." Adding to the chorus of dismissal, Sunny Hostin, who often plays the show's legal analyst, assured the audience there was no real threat. "This lawsuit won't go anywhere," she stated confidently. "It has no legal standing."
For me, and sort of lived lives of dreams deferred and poured everything in me, and just my life, how I transitioned from college. I went to college when I was 16, high school when I was 12, the struggle of that, and my career as a federal prosecutor, and then how I found my...
And for a moment, it seemed their dismissive approach was working. Major media outlets like CNN and MSNBC echoed their sentiment, painting the lawsuit as frivolous and legally hollow. Pundits and legal analysts lined up to call it an attack on free speech, framing it as an overreach designed to stifle commentary rather than a legitimate legal challenge. This chorus of support only bolstered the hosts' confidence. To them, it confirmed that the storm would pass, that Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit would fade quietly into the background. Just another headline in a 24-hour news cycle.
Really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the...
The hosts of The View made it clear they really didn't like Karoline Leavitt. Joy Behar even offered her own take, suggesting Leavitt was chosen for her communications role simply to stir controversy. But while a panel continued cracking jokes on air, things looked very different behind the scenes. ABC's legal team wasn't laughing. Privately, they were alarmed. They saw what the hosts didn't. This lawsuit had teeth. Far from being a political stunt, it carried serious allegations, defamation, workplace misconduct, and a calculated effort to damage Leavitt's reputation. ABC's lawyers were already moving, preparing for a legal storm the show's stars were still treating like a punchline. "This isn't a joke to us," one source close to the legal team revealed. "This case has real weight." Publicly, ABC kept its tone measured. "We take all legal matters seriously and are committed to handling them professionally," the network stated. But internally, there was growing recognition that this wasn't just another headline. It was a looming crisis built on documented evidence, credible witness statements, and a carefully structured case. Something much bigger was unfolding, and ABC knew it.
I have to stop you with the camera, because I can see you. So do me a favor, don't pull it out again. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. What was it?
ABC executives quickly spiraled into full-blown crisis mode. Panic set in. If Karoline Leavitt's $800 million lawsuit went to trial, it could crack open a Pandora's box. Internal emails, off-the-record conversations, and behind-the-scenes decisions that the network desperately wanted to keep buried. Inside ABC, leadership split into two camps. One group pushed to fight the lawsuit in court, convinced they could win. But the more cautious voices urged a quiet settlement, recognizing the catastrophic risk of exposure. A public trial could damage not just The View, but the entire network. And while executives scrambled, the hosts remained blissfully unaware of the legal storm brewing behind closed doors. "They still think this is a joke," one insider revealed, "but we're already making moves behind their backs." The moment the hosts found out that ABC was considering settlement talks with Leavitt, tensions exploded. Whoopi Goldberg, a fixture on the show for decades, was livid. She had laughed off the lawsuit for weeks, insisting it was nonsense. Now her own network was taking it seriously. Worse, they were potentially paying Leavitt to make it go away. In a closed-door meeting, Whoopi reportedly exploded. "Are you kidding me? We're actually taking her seriously now." For Whoopi, this was personal. She'd survived scandal after scandal over the years, always protected, always untouchable. Now, ABC was folding. Joy Behar was no calmer. Slamming her makeup case in the dressing room, she fumed. "We built this show. We made this network money. And now they're going to cave over some stupid lawsuit. Joy wasn't backing down. Not without a fight. Even Sunny Hostin, normally the calm, composed legal mind, was visibly shaken. As a former prosecutor, she had reviewed the court filings. She'd seen the evidence Karoline Leavitt was bringing forward, and she knew something the others hadn't realized yet. If this case went to trial, they could all be dragged into it. Every offhand comment, every joke, every behind-the-scenes remark about Karoline could be weaponized in court. For Sunny, the reality hit hard. This was no longer just a legal issue. It was a war over reputations. Then came the moment no one saw coming. The View panicked, and they didn't live. The show opened with a dramatically different tone. Gone was the smug confidence. In its place, unease. Whoopi, suddenly solemn, shook her head and said, "I think we all need to take a step back. There's been a lot of unnecessary hostility, and frankly, this isn't good for anyone." She was clearly trying to walk back her earlier mockery, but it came off flat and forced. Joy, who had been openly mocking Leavitt just weeks earlier, added in a rare tone of restraint, "I don't know why this has to go so far. Can't we just sit down like adults and talk this out?" It was a shocking reversal from the woman who had once laughed off the entire situation. And then there was Sunny, leaning forward, voice measured. She delivered the most direct message. "Karoline, if you're watching, I believe there's a way to resolve this without dragging it through the courts. Maybe it's time we come together and find some common ground." It was a surreal moment, one of the most dramatic on-air reversals in recent television memory. The very women who once mocked and dismissed Karoline Leavitt as an attention-seeking agitator were now, on live TV, practically begging her for mercy. But let's be honest, this wasn't about finding common ground. It was about survival. Behind the scenes, ABC's legal team had made the stakes crystal clear. If Karoline kept pushing forward, everything, internal emails, private decisions, the network's polished public image, could be dragged into the spotlight. The reputations of The View's biggest stars were hanging in the balance, and the public saw right through it. The segment went viral. Social media erupted. Viewers weren't buying the sudden change in tone. For weeks, the hosts had mocked and minimized the lawsuit. Now they wanted peace. One viral comment summed up the sentiment: "If you weren't guilty, you wouldn't be begging." Memes flooded the internet. Screen grabs of the hosts' desperate expressions, side by side with their earlier dismissive quotes. The internet had turned, and The View was quickly becoming the punchline of its own controversy.